Hello, and welcome back to episode, what are we on? Episode 4 of the Slayer Science Course series. Right now we are launching a Star Watcher capsule up to the newly constructed SkyLab that I have yet to name. Even current day, not even like in this past footage, I still haven't named it actually. It's just, I think it's SkyLab. Or something like that. We're kind of rushing through the launch sequence here. We have several launches and stuff that we're getting done today. So this specific spacecraft is actually going to be returned fairly soon because I forgot to put solar panels on the top of it. It has no way of like actually generating its own power, which became a bit of an issue. I don't know if you can tell, ran out of power, but I managed to get around that a little bit. And we're going to just go ahead and cut to the docking sequence. You can't really see it. It is just below the horizon there, but we are coming into dock. I figured this would be a pretty cool, like a sunrise shot as this spacecraft comes into dock. Sorry, it's been a long night of editing this video. I am just in love with the volumetric clouds from BlackRock. I don't know if I've said that. I probably have said this already. I am in love. And then also the ToughX profile looks gorgeous in my mind and in my opinion. You can kind of see that Star Watcher coming into dock there. But yeah, so it's going to get replaced pretty quickly. I thought these close-up docking sequences were pretty cool. For the SkyLab, we are going to be using 2 Star Watcher capsules and 1 Star Rider. So the Star Watchers is what you're seeing dock right now. And this is the second one with solar panels. Those I'm going to designate for crew specifically and maybe a little bit of cargo capacity. There's going to be a Star Rider, which doesn't have those little winglet things. I'm going to designate those primarily for cargo. It can bring up and return cargo. I guess because it is KSP, in the event that it is needed, it could also get crew off the station. That's not really going to be needed unless the Kraken strikes, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But as you see, we are re-entering in the solar panel-less Star Watcher, and I figured this would be pretty cool to watch through sped up. I think this looks absolutely beautiful, and so I figured I would at least leave the re-entry of this capsule in. Although, now that I'm thinking it through, I do also have several other reentries of these types of capsules. We are coming up on a giant area of no cloud, and yet we still managed to skip over most of it, I think. Yeah, actually, no, this one we land right in the middle of it. I guess there's a future return that I do where I was like, oh, I'm gonna land on the near side of this giant area of no clouds, and then I managed to kind of surf the atmosphere all the way over. Don't know how I managed that. Anyways, moving swiftly on, we are docking the solar paneled Star Watcher capsule back where it was supposed to go the first time. This space station is based on SkyLab, but I do have plans eventually to expand it to something greater. There is a rocket launch on your screen right now. This is the Star Rider cargo capsule, although I think I accidentally left a Kerbal in there. Whoops. Actually, thinking back, I don't know if they count as probe cores, so it might need a Kerbal to fly it up and back. But I'm going to be using the Star Watchers primarily for crew. I don't remember if I said this already. Primarily for crew, Star Riders for cargo, and if desperately need be, they can also, I guess, serve as an escape capsule. But you can tell the difference between the Rider, which is this one, and the Watcher, which is the other one, because the Star Rider doesn't have the little winglets. It's kind of just like a tube. And it just like, it kind of does its thing, you know? The Star Watcher, honestly, I prefer the look of that one. It's got the little winglets, even though they don't really do much, and I'm not sure if they actually influence the aerodynamics by that much. But they exist. launch coming up in just a second. I am setting it all up real quick. We are going to get a beautiful sped up docking sequence in the sort of sunrise area. We are lining up. And there we go. I'm going to let you enjoy this docking sequence real quick. God, that is a beauty. Anyways, future plans for this station. I think I'm gonna do something sort of Space Station Freedom-esque, um, where I expand it out with a bunch of different modules. I don't know if I'm gonna do like Russian style or anything like that, but I do have plans to expand this, even though it's kind of been forgotten now that I got the absolute basics set up. You know what? When I get back to recording stuff, I should definitely do some missions to the SkyLab. This is just a quick a minute or so of just SkyLab orbiting. I think this video was like 8 hours long. It is on my channel, unedited, in real time. I think it's like watch SkyLab orbit while you sleep or something like that. I figured I'd just put it up there because it was funny, even though it is entirely silent and just provides like visuals. But I figured, you know, watching a space station orbit a planet. I used to like to watch the ISS just orbit. Hold on. I used to like to watch the ISS like live feed of it just orbiting the Earth and just kind of have it there to look at. So that's why it's over on my channel. Anyways, this is going to be Rescue Mission 1, which is flying up to the nuclear engine equipped science craft that I believe we saw that in the last episode, and I sent it to Edna. If you didn't watch the last episode, it is similar to Dres. It's in a roughly similar area orbit-wise, although I think it has a little bit that goes outside and a little bit that goes inside of Dres's orbit. It's sort of like Dres, and I figured because it's part of the planet pack, it would probably give me a little more science, so I kind of aimed for Edna, and Edna was also really close in the transfer window, so it was really simple. The issue being... I didn't think ahead. Actually, well, I did think ahead and just decided to forego any and all return capabilities for some reason. I think I had a legitimate reason in my head, and it might have just been that I could send up like other craft to come retrieve the astronaut or the Kerbonauts, I guess. But in theory, I had a legitimate reason to do this. In practice, it was probably because I was too lazy to design something that can go all the way out and come back with also the style that I chose. But yes, we are just picking up the science and crew, the leftover science and the crew from this spacecraft here, which at least that capsule there, the command module does use. That's from Coriolis Space Systems by Benji 10. Love all of Benji's mods. We're just gonna send the upper stage there that got us here just kind of on a willy-nilly return course. And we're gonna just EVA the Kerbals all over one by one real fast, and then we'll go back down. I think this one we left in an orbit. But I do know there's 2 more rescue missions that we're going to quickly go over, and we do deorbit those, but I will get to that in just a minute. Anyways, I think we're getting we're getting a little bit more science just to bring back with us, and then we're going to use this last Kerbal, go up and retrieve that real quick, because we didn't have any science juniors to get science. Anyways, we're going to just quickly... Oh, there was one more Kerbal. Ooh, words. One more Kerbal. 2 more? Okay. There were a lot more left than I thought. Interesting. Is that it? that does seem to be it. I don't know why I did this, but we're just pointing the spacecraft prograde or retrograde maybe. I don't know. I tried to fire the engines there. I guess they're technically supposed to be like launch escape engines, but that was to try to deorbit, but that clearly didn't work. And we're just gonna do a really close flyby right there on our way back to Kerbin. Just a quick reminder, things are going to change at some point during these episodes. How planets look on both the map and the surface, I do believe, are going to change some. Actually, no. If I'm correct, the map shows what they should look like, but in-game, they haven't looked right. Because the surfaces still had the old, like the stock parallax textures, just scaled up to JNSQ size. So at some point you're going to notice Kerbin looks different in the flight scene. Anyways, this was a fairly long reentry. We did kind of a skip there. I don't know why I aimed to do something like that. Ooh, look at the cumulonimbus right there. Honestly, flying by these things on reentry never gets old. Really cool to see like the scale and stuff. Anyways, we are just gonna quickly go down to the surface, and it is gonna be a bit of a rough landing. Unfortunately, this parachute only acts like a vertical parachute and not like a paraglider, so it's gonna hit the ground and bounce a little bit. Anyways, we are gonna really quickly skip through these next two things. This is rescue mission number 2, which goes to the spacecraft that went to the Mun to do a bunch of science, rescued the Kerbals, and now we are re-entering them here. And I do believe there was a little bit there. We did deorbit with this spacecraft. Another rough landing on land. We're going to launch rescue mission number 3. This is going to that spacecraft that did science in a medium Kerbin orbit, and then we are also going to deorbit this one. It took a little bit more oomph, but we made it. And then deorbiting some space debris as well. Then, once that crashes, we are going to move on to the VAB, where I am taking a Saturn V built for a moon mission, and we are going to modify it a bit. This is going to be an interplanetary mission, woo, based on an actual concept from the Apollo Applications Program, circa 1970, where they were going to do something sort of like SkyLab, but a little bit more, and then send it to Venus, of all places. Yes, NASA was going to take a Saturn V and modified Apollo hardware and send a crew of 3 to Venus. I say SkyLab-esque because they did it as a wet workshop. I think SkyLab was launched already constructed on the interior. It wasn't an actual wet workshop. It was launched that way. But this one, they were going to launch, and it had that 3rd stage because they needed that 3rd stage to send it to Venus. And then the crew would go in and do some construction and stuff in space, I would assume. I actually should have looked up a lot of the details because I'm sure it's way crazier than I'm making it out to be. They would go in, modify the interior of the whole space, the whole 3rd stage tank area, and turn it into a workshop and I guess living space, just like extra room to exist. Obviously, this never did come to fruition. Unfortunately, honestly, that would have been a freaking awesome mission to have. Anyways, I spent way too long working on those solar panels. They were very frustrating. I do apologize for these like long pauses in the build. I was using external references and was just trying to make sure everything was correct, and then may have gotten a little distracted. But it looks like we are getting to the end of it, so I am going to shut up. And just a heads up, this launch is going to be a bit loud. It's going to be about a minute long of this loudness, but we are just setting up the cameras for the launch. Anyways, enjoy the sequence. cinematic video, which you may actually be recognizing some of this footage. It's because, well, I guess this isn't recycled because it was intended for this series, but I did also a couple weeks ago make it into a sort of music video, this specific mission, and it obviously uses the same footage. And because I did also want to turn it into like its own music video type deal, I did kind of go all out with some of the launch angles and stuff. I put actual like whole cam VDS mod cameras around the launch pad and whatnot. And, you know, I feel like it came out. That was a fun little launch sequence. Anyways, we're in the long stage 2 burn. The stage 2 gets us most of the way to orbit. Well, practically to orbit. The circularization burn is very small for the third stage, leaving most of the... I think it has like 4 kilometers per second. I can't read it, but I think I had like 4 kilometers per second of delta V once it gets to orbit. Somewhere up there, and we're going to need most of that to get to Venus. To get to Eve. Obviously, in real life, it was going to Venus, but it is Kerbal Space Program. So we're going to Eve. Here is the injection burn. This was like a 4-minute long burn, and I had to do it like in real time so that the video looked good. But it happened like, I don't know, 7 different times. Because I kept having huge issues where delta V calculations would stop and the engines would stop working, so I couldn't actually do like corrections or anything like that. But yeah, we are departing Earth. Nope, we're departing Kerbin. You can see that in the background there. And then here in just a second, we're cutting to Eve, which looks very different from the purple beauty that you have in stock Kerbal Space Program. I actually like that in JNSQ they changed the color to something more realistic. At this point in recording, I had already launched and recorded the atmospheric probes, but for storytelling's sake, we're getting a little bit out of order, but we do have the 2 atmospheric probes that I did record, because for some reason I forgot to record all 4. 2 of them kind of came at an angle like this. 2 of them went in at a very steep angle like you're about to see, and both of each angle ended up about the same. This was an intense entry. We were going in at, I don't know how many kilometers per second, but I think it was at least like 4. But yeah, this one survived all the way down to the ground, so we got a quick look at the interior of the Eve atmosphere. I was going to say Venusian. I don't know what an Eve equivalent to Venusian would be. And I'm probably saying that wrong, I'm going to be honest. But yes, so 2 atmospheric probes kind of went in on different sides of Eve, but at about the same angle, so they both made it down to the ground, and I did as much science as possible. 2 of them went in essentially perpendicular to the ground, and as you're about to see, exploded high in the atmosphere. We actually didn't get much science from those, but that's okay. We're gonna go back to our spacecraft as we do our close flyby. I think we were only a few handfuls of kilometers above the edge of the actual atmosphere there. We're doing our little, hold on, what does that say? 70 kilometers? Yeah, we kind of went right up to the edge of the atmosphere. Wanted to kind of push it and make sure we got some really good close science. I think we got some science on the way in or out, and I just didn't record that specific section. But yeah, those probes were going really friggin' fast. So yeah. Whoops. I will also add, if I do future Eve missions, the interior is not going to look like it did. So we can just, for storytelling purposes, say our probes malfunctioned and the cameras weren't right or something like that. The science is accurate, the camera, like the visuals are not. Anyways, we are going very quickly away from Eve, and honestly, I didn't do a great job at trying to set up a direct Kerbin return, so these poor Kerbinauts ended up staying out in interplanetary space for a little bit. But we made it back to Kerbin, and we are screaming. This reentry process is going to be really long. It was very arduous, and I did it about 3 different times, all in real time, because if I sped it up, things exploded. But we're starting at, oh god, like 5 or 6 kilometers per second, which is very fast, given that, no, we must have been closer to like 7 kilometers per second. I don't know. We were going very fast, and had I just gone in with a positive lift vector, I would have just skipped out of the atmosphere. I probably would have been in a captured orbit at least at that point, but I don't like doing something like that, especially with these space capsules where, you know, once you ditch to the service module, you're kind of committed to landing. But yes, I was originally going to let this re-entry sequence run in real time, but I didn't, because it was like a 5 or 6 minute re-entry sequence. But originally, the first time I did it, I came in with a positive lift vector. The second time I came in with a negative lift vector. Turns out if I just went in with the lift vector kind of pointed parallel to the surface, that would do good for just the trajectory we were on, and then once we started going up, we were already captured, so I can turn the lift vector positive to kind of minimize the G-forces. I'm trying to think of this like if they were actual astronauts, to a degree at least, and I know Artemis is doing this kind of skip re-entry thing. At least Artemis 1 did, Artemis 2 didn't, and I think Artemis 3 will be, because they updated the heat shield with the data from Artemis 1. But yes, here we go. I waited way too long on the parachutes because those drogues immediately cut. But that is enough of me rambling. This is the end of the video, so once we splash down, I'm going to kind of shut up. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you come back for another one. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and whatnot. And enjoy the rest of your day, night, whatever time it is. Have fun. Have a good one. Adios.